Welcome to a very special edition of the SNDP Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Steven is here. Dan is there.
What's up? It's basketball season. How's it going tonight, Steve? What's up?
First off, let's start off with, we have a little new music today.
Yeah, definitely.
A good friend of mine. A lot of you know I'm currently in school at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good friend of mine.
Nice cheap pub.
My friend Rob Barden from my class is a drummer and a musician. That was his music.
That was very
Intermezzo.
Awesome. Intermezzo. Very nice Italian name to it.
Yes. Check it out on Facebook. He's got a bunch of stuff up there.
Yeah, no, definitely give him a top. We're not cheating on Division 1.1, but we did a little change of music just for our NBA special.
Of course.
So, Steve, the basketball season is a week away while we're recording on a Wednesday night.
Before we even get into the show, did you see the jerseys the Heat are wearing for their opening game?
Yeah, honestly.
Opinion?
Yeah, honestly, it's
we'll
not.
Do our
not
fashion segment.
Honestly, they're not the first team to do that.
Yeah, but the gold lettering for
the Giants did that a couple years ago.
No, they did the outline.
Yeah, I know.
This is the full-blown gold lettering.
It's okay.
The jackets, I understand. Every team does that.
You expect nothing less. Honestly, we've seen all the antics. So it's nothing special with that. I actually think they're pretty cool, to be honest with you.
You know what will make them look better? Blue and orange around them.
Yeah, well, hopefully, one day
before we die.
Before we die is right. I like them. They're pretty cool. Definitely one-time thing. They're the world champs back to back, so they're able to do that kind of thing.
But speaking of fashion, we are going to have on tonight for our first time talking Brooklyn Nets from the Brooklyn Nets fan club. The director of social media, Alex, is going to be joining us.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that. The Nets are after last year's first season in Brooklyn, they really stepped their game up this year, and they're going for it all this year. So us Knicks fans are going to be a little bit worried, but we should be able to take care of Brooklyn, hopefully.
Happens.
I'm excited to talk to them, have a little friendly showdown, especially with the Knicks and Nets.
Yes. But also make sure to check out this website.
Definitely check out the website.
BrooklynNetsFanClub.com, I believe
I'm very unbiased when it comes to their features. It's very cool. Especially, I don't know. It's going to be weird trying to be biased this year, especially with guys I passionately hate.
From Boston.
But
we'll talk Nets with him.
Boston Nets.
The website's bknfc.com. Check them out. Brooklyn Net fans, go check them out. It's a lot like Darren.
Yeah.
If you want to when you look at their website, it's a lot like Darren from the 7 Line, who we've had on.
Their stuff is very snazzy and very cool and hip.
He'll come on later on. We're also going to have tonight with us for our basketball preview show this week, Keith from SchmuckSports.com.
K Kizzle right there. So
probably behind Dan, the biggest Knick fan I know, personally.
No, Keith's definitely a bigger Knick fan than me.
Okay. It's definitely, in my life, it's Keith, Dan.
Yeah, Keith definitely overtakes me. He'll watch preseason games. I haven't got the chance to watch them yet.
So you got both of them coming on. But right now we're going to play a little more Intermezzo by Rob Barden. So don't forget to check him out on Facebook and enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. This is the NBA Preview Special Show. Once again, before we continue, Rob Barden, thank you for the music, Intermezzo. Now we'd like to welcome from Brooklyn Nets Fan Club, the director of social media for Brooklyn Nets Fan Club, Alex. Alex, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Alex.
Hey, Steve and Dan.
What's up?
How are you guys?
We're good.
Great.
Why don't we start off with the website? We had our friend from the 7 Line, Darren, on over the summer. And I've noticed personally that it's a lot like that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, we've seen what they've been doing, and we kind of just wanted to bring an experience like that to the Nets fan base because they don't really have that. But we also bring news, statistics, projections, things that they don't bring. So we expanded on their idea and put our own pizzazz into it. And over a year, we've come very far, starting from nothing now at around 18,000 followers, almost enough to fill the entire Barclays Center.
Wow, nice.
The entire T-shirt line. And now we're starting a Brooklyn Brigade outing where it's just a huge group of fans going to games, cheering as loud as they can, all for one team. So it's been very great, very successful, and we're proud that we could change the fan base.
Awesome. So when did it get started?
It started around mid-July of last summer.
So 2012.
Yeah,
Okay, so right before, like when the move was officially happening.
yeah.
Okay. So why don't we jump right into the Nets now?
Yeah, definitely let's just jump into that right away. Alex, I know it's a big off season. They're trying to be big, try to take over the Knicks as the team.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Anyway, nah.
That just happened as a result, but
Anyway, huge off season.
definitely.
What's your feel as a big diehard Net fan? What's your feeling in this year's team having the big ticket in Kevin Garnett and getting Paul Pierce, two huge key guys that have won championships and gone through the battles, to go with D. Will, arguably one of the best point guards in the game when he wants to play, and Brook Lopez, one of the most underrated players in the league. What's your feeling as a Net fan going into this season opposed to other seasons? Like last year was just that nice storybook. All right, we're in Brooklyn. It's going to be awesome. We'll be a decent team, but let's see what happens. What's your feeling going into this year? We're going for it all kind of aspect of the team. Pretty much what the Knicks did last year.
Well, I'm very confident, as most fans are right now, and how they were last season with the Joe Johnson trade, how once you get a new piece, all the fans, their confidence up, everything builds up. KG and Paul Pierce, they are huge additions to the team, but to more of a mental aspect. They're kind of worn out right now with their age, but they're not that old. They still have some left in the tank. But the mental aspect that they bring and the leadership that they bring to this team just elevates the toughness and winning mentality to an entirely different level. What isn't really being noticed is that Jason Terry in that deal, signing Andrei Kirilenko, especially Allen Anderson, and bringing back Andre Blatch. Those two guys are insanely underrated. Andre Blatch could have taken probably anywhere from $5 to $12 million to sign with another team. He chose to come back to the Nets on the veterans minimum, about 1.2, because he's loyal to the team and they gave him a shot last year. Allen Anderson came off the bench in Toronto, averaging about 10 points a game, and he was the last signing of the Nets. So that means that he came around towards the end of August. And for teams to sleep on him that long is crazy. And the Nets were just lucky enough to pick him up. Andrei Kirilenko, huge signing. They signed him. He could have taken $10 million to stay with the Timberwolves, but he chose $3 million on the Nets because he wanted to win. And just his defensive mentality and how he was brought in mainly to guard LeBron and maybe even Melo, but he doesn't really need to. Just that idea is that they're really going for it all, because if you're signing somebody to guard one specific player that's on the top, that just shows that you're ready for it.
All right, no, definitely. Andre Blatch definitely was one of the unsung heroes of last year's team, so it was great to have him coming back, obviously, because he's a very young sung hero for that unit. Definitely with Jason Terry, the Jet, you're going to be doing a lot of Jets as he's shooting threes. He
already did his first one just during the game. After he made his first three as a net, it was very exciting.
Back in Boston for a preseason game too.
Yeah, no, it's you're definitely gonna have a lot of fun with him. He's definitely gonna be a cult hero at the Barclays Center this year. I think the Nets are gonna be very good. It's gonna be interesting to see how Jason Kidd with Lawrence Frank's help. Let's not forget that, on how they're able to get the whole team gel. It's obviously going to take a while, but with their veteran team that they have this year, I think they're going to be able to dominate. They could easily win the division.
If you don't mind me interrupting, I just want to add in one thing. If you've been watching their preseason, it's very impressive how Jason Kidd has already put in that mindset. Even though he's so quiet, if you see him in training camp, he doesn't even say anything. He might just sit on the bench. But his entire mentality from a player is really on his whole entire team, as all of them, even though they do run the shot clock down a little bit, they do look for passing every opportunity they can find, which is definitely what he did as a player. and it seems as they've already understood the playbook, even though Darren hasn't stepped on the court yet. He's gone through his first day of contact yesterday. He's looking very good, but he already knows the playbook very well, and what's going to be more of a test, but not really, is that since Kidd is suspended for the first 2 games of the season, how Lawrence Frank is going to run this team. Expect those 2 games to be more defensive, since if you saw during training camp, Lawrence Frank was teaching the entire team defense, running sprints with them, doing the entire warm-up with them, being very vocal, really teaching Kidd how it's supposed to be done. But meanwhile, Kidd was still leading the huddles and everything. Also, during the Nets open practice last Sunday, when they were finishing it off and allowing the fans to ask questions, KG took the mic right after a question to Brook Lopez, took the mic, nobody told him to do anything, took the mic and immediately said how grateful he is to have a young coach like Jason Kidd, who he respects, who he's played against before, and really understands how much of a Hall of Famer he is, and just how well he can relate to his players coming right out of the NBA and knowing exactly what they're going through as a player, unlike most coaches in the NBA do right now because they're kind of old.
Okay. Yeah, the team is, I would say, old. What are they? Average 35-ish, I believe it is?
No.
34?
That you bring that up because I knew that being a Knicks fan, you'd bring that up against something to bash the Nets on. Their average age is 29.4.
Really?
The age of the Knicks is 29.9.
We actually got younger this season, so
Got younger, but that's just from retiring.
That's because Kidd retired.
Yeah.
and we
Kidd, Wallace,
Camby.
Camby.
No, honestly, I'm all kidding aside, the Nets are going to be fun to watch this year, and I like the stance that the Nets are taking this year, that they're not a joke anymore. They started last season. Unfortunately, they lost to the Bulls. Arguably, they could be a top 2 team easily this year with Derrick Rose. It was really impressive how the fan base and the Nets looked in that 7-game series. Granted, they lost in the 7-game series, but it was a far improvement from 2 years ago when they played in the Prudential Center. So it's a completely different team, which we kind of expected moving to Brooklyn. But I'm excited to see what this Net team has to offer. I'm excited for this Knick-Net rivalry to start where it was last year. I was actually at the second Knick-Net game, the game the Knicks won by Jay Kidd. And it was I love the Barclays Center atmosphere. I'm not gonna lie. Granted, it was half Knicks, but these Knicks. It was a really fun game. Granted, that game was a lot more Knicks fans because it was still the Net fan base was still getting into it. But this year, the next couple of years, I bet it's gonna be a lot more even than it was last year.
Also, with Nets-Knicks games, that's last year how it was kind of like the 50-50 split. Expected this year to be around 80-20, and same thing goes for against Miami with all the bandwagoner fans here.
Yeah, of course.
But we went to the game. We had our outing last Thursday, the preseason game for the Jason Kidd retiring against Miami, and I want to say it was about 90-10 Nets fans.
It
was definitely a complete change, although it might just be bandwagoners, but there's definitely some true diehards in the Nets fan base, much more than Miami.
What do you think is the percentage of people who actually stuck with them moving away from New Jersey?
Other than Evan Roberts.
Other than Evan Roberts from WFAL.
Well, definitely, but I'd probably say around 90% because who else are they going to go to?
No, it's fair enough. We're both also Islander fans, so we know that feeling. Mm-hmm. We're actually both excited to move to Barclays Center. We both love the Barclays Center. Would you agree, Steve?
Oh yeah, I liked it. Just not for hockey.
Not for hockey. Well, I'm sure they'll have time to fix that. But honestly, they have a world-class arena. I went to 2 Net games last year. The other game was I forget who. They absolutely destroyed them. But it was just first-class everything.
Orlando?
Probably. They beat them by like 40 points.
Then it's Orlando. Yep.
Yeah, it was towards the end of the year, and it was just actually it's really funny that you when you walk up on Atlantic Avenue, you think you're walking into a spaceship, like it's gonna be freaking huge, and then once you get into the arena, you're like, this is it. It's really homey, and I definitely that's how the Nets are gonna have a very good dominant home court.
Well, yeah, you definitely get that experience when you walk in the building, especially because a lot of the people that are working there, they're Brooklynites. They can relate to the fans, genuine, nice people, and the fans just love the atmosphere there.
Yeah, I think they could get a very dominant home court advantage if everything falls in the right pieces.
Well, definitely during media day, Andre Blash he brought up the point that he thinks that the Nets won a lot of their games because of their fans, how they were always cheering Brooklyn after every big play, always on their feet, and that's going to be probably times 10 this year with a lot of Celtics fans going to the Nets, things like that.
Well, I went to the first time I was there was a Green Day concert in April. And I'll admit it, I wore my Carmelo shirt. And one of the workers comes up to me and goes, "You're wearing the wrong shirt." So they are loyal, the people that work there.
Well, definitely. I mean, when we had the whole entire group outing last Thursday, every person that I saw, and I told other people that were with us that whenever they see someone with a Miami shirt on, walk by them and say, "No three-peat. It's our time." And everyone did it, and some Miami fans, they were definitely defensive, but a lot had nothing to really respond because they're just starting to follow the team now.
Absolutely.
They probably think the team only won one.
Probably.
Yeah, they didn't know about the one in 2006 with just Wade. Let's say what's your feeling in prediction of the I was about to say New Jersey Nets, Brooklyn. What do you think the sky's the limit for them? Where do you see them? What do you project them to be in this season coming up? Winning the division and being the 3 seed.
Winning division and being the 2 seed.
Okay, so
under Miami.
Okay,
I said that the winner of the Atlantic's going to be either the 2 or 3, and the Bulls will be the other one.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be interchanging with the Knicks or Nets and the Bulls because I think the Bulls are just, especially with D Rose back, they're going to be sick
Dang,
again.
And a healthy Luang Dang.
Yeah. So
what, Alex? You know about the rest of the league as well, of course. So what's your take on the Chicago Bulls getting Derrick Rose back this season?
Well, I think that they have a promising team with Derrick Rose back, but you have to understand that he's coming back from the ACL. Even though he's gotten so much criticism for holding off coming back, he's coming back from a serious injury, same going with Rajon Rondo. And all teams with players that are suffering from a torn ACL, they go very slow with them, let them take their time. So even though he's played a good amount of minutes in preseason, I think he'll still be very limited come the regular season. And, I mean, I think it'll be around the same as last year. Maybe a little bit better, but with Indiana improving with Luis Scola and C.J. Watson, the Nets improvements, and the Heat kind of staying the same but getting a Greg Oden, which is kind of promising. So everyone's really improving, but Chicago, you can't really predict because you don't know how Derrick Rose is going to be.
That is fair enough. That is a valid point because, as Giant fans, of course, we've seen Terrell Thomas coming back from ACL injuries. Yeah. All it takes is one step and you re-injure that.
And Amari Stoudemire.
And yeah, and Amari, look at him and his knees. Every time he walks around, it cracks and needs surgery.
Take risk every time he takes a step.
I think, honestly, I think the Nets could overtake the Knicks in winning the division easily. Especially with their guys this year and how of a complete unit they are this year. I see they could easily win the division. It's going to be a hard-fought battle. I'm actually really excited that the Knicks-Nets is actually going to be a rivalry this year. Last year was just because...
It ended in January.
That was the one...
Yeah, that's the one bad thing about the schedule.
That's,
this year it's ending in March or April.
Yeah,
Sure.
April
I,
this year.
Last game.
I think it was. I think Evan Roberts, when the schedule came out, said something like the last like 3 out of the last 8 net games are against the Knicks.
Yeah, no,
or something like that.
There's two games in March and April, so that's going to be a lot different last year. Those 4 games were awesome games. They got the city jumping. It was more of a regional, all right, turf war kind of thing. But this year, it's going to be even more awesome because
it's closer to the playoffs.
Close to the playoffs, 1, and 2. The Nets are a little bit better of a team this year. Granted, the Nets played the Knicks so tough last year. That really got Knicks fans going. Okay, the Nets are not a joke last year, and I'm really excited because the Knicks and Nets, when the Knicks sucked, the Nets went on their up climb when they had Jason Kidd and everything.
I wouldn't say last year's Nets-Knicks rivalry, the Nets were at their full potential because you have to
absolutely not. That's what
Darren Williams. It was still pre-All-Star break. Darren Williams his ankle wasn't fully healthy. He still didn't reach his peak. Nets were much better second half. So they were around like 70% at that time rather than 100% against the Bulls.
No, I'm 100. I agree with you. Like I said, like it was more of a turf war kind of thing.
Definitely.
And this year it's going to be even better because your starting 5 can honestly compete with any starting 5 in the league.
Well, also the starting 5 and the bench starting 5 can compete for an 8 spot probably in the conference.
No, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting, especially with what the Knicks have and what the Nets have. And it's gonna be a lot easier. It's going to be us too, unless the 76ers, which is not going to happen, come out of nowhere, or Boston, definitely not going to happen. It's going to be one of our division, and it's going to be fun seeing these 4 games. I wish they played more games in the division. What do you think?
I mean, 4 is a good amount, but if you're going to play, you have 5 teams in the division. If you're going to make it 5 or 6, that's 1 or 2 more per team. That's a lot of games. You do like to see those cross-conference rivalries, like Lakers-Nets is always a nice matchup. So you always have to have time for those. And, I mean, people do look forward to those ones.
All right. Another question about the Nets is, what do you think of Jason Kidd? Is he going to be able to make that transition right away?
Well, I think he'll be able to make the transition right away, but it's not really an opinion right now, seeing from how the Nets are doing in preseason. They're always looking to pass. They really look up to him. They respect him a lot because they've seen what he's done. They know the position that they're in and how tough it is to make it big in the NBA, and they know that he just got his jersey retired for being a Hall of Fame caliber player. That takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, and he's truly earned that. And they respect that tremendously. So they love how he's a huge team player. And from the isolation team that they were under Avery Johnson and PJ Carlissimo last year, changing completely to passing offense, I think it's definitely going to give this team a new look, a new mentality, just like a new playing style completely, because instead of bringing up with Joe Johnson or Darren Williams and finishing the play with Joe Johnson and Darren Williams every time, it keeps the defense on their toes, makes them afraid of double teaming because of Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Everyone on the team is able to score. So it makes it so much easier for the players. Kid doesn't have to do much work. Obviously, he has to live up to his expectations of a championship team. But still, he has Lawrence Frank right under him and a lot of his previous coaches right under him too. So he has a lot to lean on, a lot of experience playing and on his assistant coaching staff. So I think he'll be perfectly fine.
All right. All right. I got to get your take on this. Do you think that it's basically locked for the Heat to be the number 1, or you think it's just going to be one of those, they don't even care what seed they get?
I mean, I think that there is a little bit of wiggle room that they could drop down to the 1, 2, maybe even 3. But, I mean, they're coming back with the same squad. they're coming back with more chemistry. They did add a Greg Oden, which could be a huge addition. They added Michael Beasley, which that could go either way. But, I mean, he's been looking good. Greg's been practicing well. He's not back to playing yet, but he's definitely been looking good. And, I mean, they're promising, but they definitely do have the chemistry as an advantage over a lot of the other teams, new additions. So it just all matters on how other teams mesh together.
Alrighty. Anything for the site you want to promote?
Just one thing I want to bring up before we're done is that Joe Johnson, he's known for being called ISO Joe. And everyone knows that nickname.
Yeah.
And the reason he had that is because he had really nobody else on his team at that time at Atlanta. He did have Josh Smith, but he was the go-to guy.
Right.
Here he has 4 other players and his entire bench. So he's never really played under the passing style offense. It's really been him. So with those open threes, rather than having to create for himself, I think he'll be so much more successful this year. Probably his numbers will be the same, but his efficiency will go like crazy. Instead of shooting maybe 40% from the field, 48 from 3, it'll be around 45. And he'll definitely space the floor for the team and prevent a lot of double teams.
All right. I have one more question. I arguably think he's one of the most underrated players in the whole entire game. What's your take on Brook Lopez? Do you think he finally stays healthy for a whole season and puts another all-star effort season in the books with Brook Lopez?
Well, people are forgetting that he's been in the league for 4 to 5 years, and he was injured 1 year. He set a Nets record, or he finished second in consecutive games. But after that one season, that changed everyone's mind. He's been one of the most durable players in the NBA history and Nets history. But now, just after one season, he came back for 1 or 2 games that year. And one highlight of that in New Jersey was against Dallas. He scored 38 points with 6 rebounds on his first game back in only 32 minutes. Nobody expected anything like that, especially with a Nets team that was not in playoff contention at all against a championship Dallas team at the time. And I think that he'll be perfectly healthy. Even though he did get surgery over the offseason, he's perfectly fine. He's been scoring great in the offseason and in the preseason. And Kevin Garnett's definitely there to help him. Been a huge role model, very vocal in practice. And I say he hasn't reached his ceiling yet. He's close. He's gotten to that all-star potential that he was supposed to be at. And he can definitely average 20 and 10 a night. He averaged 20 and 6 last year, but now with KG there, Reggie Evans back, I think he'll definitely get that rebounding ability back that he had in his first few years and definitely build on his scoring without taking much away of the plays with the entire offense.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be the unsung hero of this year's Nets team.
Definitely, that's how it was last year, and probably do the same this year, but teams are more expecting that.
But as of right now, he's the 5th option on that offense, which is a scary thought.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'd say he's the first option down low, while KG takes all of his missed shots and turns those into buckets.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. I'm just thinking in my head just because of KG's status, but I can see what you're saying with that and agree with you when you did mention that. But arguably, it's easily arguably he could be the 4th and 5th option on certain plays, and that's just a scary thought that any of these guys on a certain play can kill you pretty much if you leave them wide open. And that's going to be an amazing thing, especially with the wide open offense opposed to the ISO game last year with PJ and Avery. This Nets team is going to be completely more different, and it's going to be more enjoyable to watch.
Definitely. That's why ticket sales are going up crazy for them. Their CEO, Brett Yormark, a few weeks ago came out and said that they're on track to sell out every single game.
And that's amazing to see. That's very good job on how much they've got the marketing going down in Brooklyn and how the fans are reacting. And the people who just like basketball, especially in Brooklyn, a very basketball haven for basketball. It's really great to see how much the Nets fan base have grown over the last year and a half as their move to Brooklyn officially started. And I can't give you guys credit, especially the Net fans that stick through the Nets through the whole move and the whole coloring change and everything. So I definitely give the real Net fans a lot of credit. And honestly, New York is a very front-running town, so I could see a lot of bandwagoners on both sides of the spectrum. So it's going to be interesting.
They're front-running town. They've never really had that bad team other than the Mets, really, that have made them become underdogs. New Jersey wasn't even their team. It kind of was, but I mean, being a fan since New Jersey, I personally like the feeling of being an underdog.
Oh, of course.
Because when you're coming from down below, I'd be able to talk to some of my friends, other fans of other teams, and say, even though, say at the time, for an example, they were Celtics fans, even though Celtics were number 2 team at the time and Nets were last in the division, I'd still be saying why the Nets could win. And then when the Nets won and nobody expected it, I'd be able to brag and all Nets fans would be happy. But, I mean, being an underdog is fun for some time, but you eventually need that winning, and now it's their time.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Coming from being a Met fan and an Islander fan, I absolutely know the feeling. And honestly, for some most part, the Knicks fan, other than the Nets, every other team's been better than us, other than the Nets for so long. So I can't wait to get the rivalry going, like I mentioned so many times earlier in the segment. I think the Nets could be better than the Knicks.
Well, definitely.
They're definitely more. They're
also
definitely
coming
more of a team
from the same place. They're also coming from that age.
It's win or go home this year, pretty much for both teams again, and it's going to be so much fun to watch. I just hope for the Knicks' sake that last year wasn't their ceiling type of thing.
I think that this year for the Knicks is pretty much their last chance.
I agree with you 100%.
Because the reason why they did that Bargnani trade was to get rid of Camby and Novak because they had longer contracts. Get Bargnani so that his contract expires this year. Get their big deals expiring like Chandler, Amari, Melo, who's already said that he wants to try free agency. It's definitely win or go home for them, but their expectations are much lower.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like we've all been saying, we can't wait. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna take the city by storm.
Only 6 days away.
Only 6 days away. Who the Nets start the season off against and where?
Cleveland, in Cleveland.
Okay.
The first home game is Miami.
Correct.
Next Saturday?
Friday. November 1st.
November 1st, yeah.
So you better get your Brooklyn chant going.
Definitely will.
You better have no voice. So if that's gonna be a fun. That's gonna. I'm gonna definitely try. We'll catch that game. I can't wait to watch that.
It's gonna kind of be like last year with the Knicks opening their season against the Heat.
Yeah.
That's the way I can see it.
Well, yeah.
I wouldn't say that because the Knicks didn't have those high expectations that the Nets had. Obviously, the Knicks were a great team last year. Don't get me wrong, but Nets are coming in with 3 former champions, a former champion coach. They have a lot of experience under the belt, and the spotlight's definitely on them this year.
No, yeah, definitely. It's going to be fun. When's your first outing? Well, first regular season outing with the fan club?
Well, it's looking right now to be January 6th against the Hawks.
Okay. That's definitely fun. How can fans go about getting tickets to the event?
Well, we sell great packages on our website, bknfc.com, standing for Brooklyn Nets Fan Club. And the packages are $50 each, and they're very good view seats, especially because there's no bad seat in the Barclays Center, so that's just one point. But these seats are great. We've had our last event against Miami last Thursday. during the Jason Kidd retirement ceremony, all fans had a great time. We were all cheering together as one community. And that's really the aspect that we wanted to emphasize with the Nets fan base, that they needed to be kind of united. And so our package includes a Brooklyn Brigade t-shirt, which is the group that we formed. And it includes that, the ticket. So it's about a $70 offer for $50, which you can't go wrong.
That's not bad. Definitely, if all the Net fans out there and they haven't bought those tickets yet, definitely take a look at that. Any other games other than a game in January? Do you have a ticket plan or anything? How often do you get to Net games?
Well, I mean, I go as often as I can. I don't have any tickets personally, but nice weekend game available, I'll try and go. I mean, it's definitely fun to get down there, talk to the guys. They're all really nice players, but we really want to bring that on-court experience and that locker room experience to the fans, which is something that ESPN can do, but not to an extent of just the Nets.
Right.
And that's what I think fans are definitely looking for.
And not just to the extent of a homegrown Net fan.
Correct.
BKNFC.com.
Correct.
Check it out. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Do you want to promote your own personal Twitter account, Alex?
Also, our Twitter account is BKNFC, and Facebook is Brooklyn Nets Fan Club.
All right.
So check us out over there, please.
Definitely. We'll share it, of course. Everybody listening, make sure you go check it out.
Definitely go check it out. Thank you, Alex, for coming on.
Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Can't wait to have you on during the regular season.
Can't wait to be back.
S&D Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Basketball Association or any of its affiliates.
All right, welcome back to the S&D Podcast Show. You just listened to Intermezzo from Rob Burden. Our good friends next up on the podcast, our good friend from Keith from Schmuck Sports. How's it going, Keith?
Hey, what's up, guys? 50 shows.
50
Woo!
shows.
Yeah,
We
thank
have
you.
made it 50 shows.
50 shows. Thank you for coming on for our basketball preview.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. This is what? Show like 4 for him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Probably
Yeah, I think
more.
I've been on like 4 times, something like that. I'm a regular, I would say.
Yeah.
Right?
So the reason why we have Keith on tonight is all about the Knicks tape. So
Yeah. Basketball's back, baby.
yeah, like we mentioned in the preview, Nick, he is the biggest Knicks fan we both know. He's slightly higher than me, but Keith, what's your expectations on this year?
A lot of people, as usual, I think are a little bit writing off the Knicks, or, they're looking at a lot of the moves some other teams might have made to improve themselves, but I expect the Knicks to have home court in the playoffs in the first round. So that means top 4, and that means winning the Atlantic, possibly. If not, they'll finish 3rd or 4th. So, they were second last year, and it's a little bit unfair because Chicago lost Derrick Rose didn't have Derrick Rose the whole year, but they were second last year, and they really lost nobody of consequence, and they gained Metta World Peace, who I think is going to make a huge difference defending on the outside, especially when he plays with Shumpert. I expect Metta World Peace not to be afraid to get in the face of Derrick Rose, to get in the face of LeBron James, and kind of shut those guys down. And that's sort of what I'm expecting, and I'm expecting big things. I don't know that we have a championship caliber team, but that's only because the team in Miami has the best player in the world. So, but I'm expecting big things. I'm expecting as good as or better than last year, honestly.
I'm with you 100% with that. I think we actually got tougher this year. That one aspect that we did not have last year
Agree.
is the toughness. The only thing with this year's Knick team is, like it was kind of last year, but we have added a little bit, another head case to this year's team, is how mentally stable can this year's Knick team be?
I understand that. Metta World Peace has a reputation for obviously what happened when he was in Indiana and he went into the crowd in Detroit. But from what I've seen, he's been mentoring Tim Hardaway Jr. a little bit, teaching him how to play tough, teaching him how to play strong defense, and he needs the help. He hasn't been very good on defense, but I think he's going to be a leader, just like Jason Kidd and Rasheed Wallace stepped up to be leaders last year and kind of took some guys under their wing and played really well for us when they could. So I'm confident in Metta World Peace. He wants to be here. He's from New York. I think he's always wanted to be in New York a little bit. So.
Oh, absolutely, because he played for St. John's. He obviously wanted to stay home. So
he wanted to be drafted by the Knicks, and they famously did not draft him when they could have. But I think he's going to be pumped up to play in New York, and I can't wait to see him out there in a regular season game, and I can't wait till he gets in LeBron James's face the first time they play, because that's going to happen. I'm sure of it.
Question, because we like to play this game with Keith. Because Keith likes to collect Knick jerseys and everything.
Do you have one yet?
Well, that's the jersey of this year, huh?
Yeah, I am going to order it probably within the next 2 weeks. So.
Wow, you're running behind on schedule, Keith.
Yeah, it's come up. You got a budget issues. So the money's a little bit. I wouldn't say tight, but you save up for Christmas is coming up, but I'm going to make room for it. That's for sure.
All right, question. I know this is a basketball preview show. If you listen to the show, Keith's a big Oakland Raider fan.
Yeah.
Trail Fire jersey yet?
No, I was IMing with my friend during one of the games, and I asked him if we were going to get them. I like to. I know it's not the. I know your listeners are probably tuning in for basketball, but I kind of like Terrell Pryor, and I think we talked about this when I was on probably a few weeks ago. I kind of like him, so I'm thinking about it. I'm between him and DJ Hayden. With a lot of these guys, it's a decision of who's going to be here the longest. Mm-hmm. So, if it smells like Terrell Pryor's on his way out, I don't know if he is, but I'll make a decision on one of the two, and I'll have one of the two before the end of the year. That's for sure.
All right, definitely. All right, back to the Knicks. I had to know that personally.
Welcome back to the NBA preview show, everybody.
All right, back to the Knicks. Tyson Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting big things out of him this year. I know last year he got hurt towards the end of the year. Maybe it was more fatigue playing on the Olympic team more than anything, and just getting the wear and tear of being a big body and being as good on defense as he normally is. I think this year he's not gonna falter in the playoffs like he did against the Pacers, where Tyson Chandler is our heart and soul of the team. I would like to think that. He's pretty much our quote-unquote manhood.
Mm-hmm. And
if teams are able to bully him, that's not good, because that's our intimidation factor, per se. And that was really why the Pacers beat the Knicks last year in the playoffs. What do you expect out of Tyson Chandler? Do you think he's going to be fully healthy this year with his neck issues that he had last year? Because he definitely wasn't the same player. And if it was like a normal season, there was no way, and he was definitely not going to be out a lot longer than he really was. And I would definitely give him credit for playing last year.
Yeah, no. I expect him to be healthy. He did not look good at all in the Knicks playoff series, and I think I was actually on, and we talked about that a little bit. He looked bad in the Pacers series, and we discussed toughness a little bit, how they got a little bit tougher. Tyson Chandler is basically the originator of toughness on this Knicks team. He's the first tough guy when he signed 2 years ago, 2 years ago. He was the first tough guy we had in a really long time. And he kind of changed the attitude that a lot of our team used to have on defense. And I do expect him to be healthy. I've seen some stuff, and it looks like he's getting himself into shape. I know that some Knicks fans were worried that he was talking about working on his jumper. I think that's more of a he needs to be a little bit more of a threat offensively. Not that they need to go to him because they have the best one-way offensive player in the league, but they need him to be a little bit more of a threat offensively, and that will open up the floor a little bit more for Carmelo and a little bit more for Bargnani, I think. I expect him to be back. I expect him to be healthy, and I expect him to do what he did 2 years ago when he won Defensive Player of the Year, and he was really the anchor of this defense. The interior defense hasn't looked great in the preseason, but I don't think that'll continue into the regular season. I think this team is too tough, and if you have Tyson Chandler, Iman Shumpert, and Metta World Peace on the floor at the same time, you should be able to defend basically every single team in the league. So I'm confident in him. I'm confident in him working hard. He's a prideful player. He has won an NBA championship, and he's here for nothing less than an NBA championship. So I believe he'll be great.
Okay. Speaking of big man down low, what is your take and predictions for Amari this year?
It's always tough because I really want Amari to be good, and that's another guy that when people look at other teams in the league and their what they've done in the offseason, and they kind of give the Knicks they brush the Knicks aside. If they can get Amari back healthy for even half of a season to where he can contribute even a little bit, that's huge for the Knicks. It's always tough with him. I think he's got some really serious injury issues. I'm not expecting him to be out there opening night or even opening month, but I would hope that he could give us once he gets back, I'm hoping he can give us a nice little stretch, and if it's for the playoffs, if he can be even half the player he was before he went down, that's a really huge add for the Knicks. So I honestly don't know. I was hoping he would be better than he was last year, but with these injuries, especially with him, it's a little bit tough. So I'm not sure, but I'm hopeful. I'm not going to write him off just yet. I think he could be a big part of this team.
All right. The big man nobody talks about on the team.
Kenyon, my man.
Let's talk a little Kenyon, Keith. What do you think about him this year?
When he signed with the team, I mean, you want to talk about toughness. There was nobody down low tougher than him. He was willing to get in there, and he was willing to put his body on the line. And I was at a couple playoff games, and he threw down some pretty dunks. So he's an exciting player. He's got a lot of energy. He's aggressive, and he's not afraid of anybody on the court. That's the early 90s Knicks that were so successful. They were teams that didn't take a lot of crap from anybody. They beat you up. If you went into the paint, they made sure you didn't want to come back. And I think that he's one of these guys that can be another enforcer, a guy that can protect Carmelo a little bit out there. And I love Kenyon Martin. I didn't really like him when he was a net, and I didn't really like him before he came to the Knicks. But when he came to the Knicks, he played. He was passionate, and that's what New York responds to. New York responds to passionate players, and if they're gonna work hard and they're gonna try hard and they're gonna play hard, New York's going to embrace that player. So I expect as long as he can stay on the court, for him to be a big part of our team on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is the one thing with the Knicks this year is they have a lot of depth. It's going to be interesting to see what the coaching staff is going to have their rotations and who gets minutes. Because some nights, some players are not going to get a lot of minutes. Speaking of minutes, what do you think about Tim Hardaway Jr.? It's going to be weird seeing his father rooting for the Knicks a lot this year. But what do you think? What do you think Tim Hardaway Jr.'s role is going to be on this year's Knicks team? Because it's going to be tough to crack the lineup, especially with Shumpert and J.R. Smith and Felton and Prigioni. It's just going to be really hard for him to crack the lineup. But how do you think? What kind of role do you think he's going to be?
Well, Woodson has made it pretty clear that he intends to have Hardaway Jr. at least get some minutes. I know it's preseason, but the first game his number was called, and he hit a buzzer beater, and I know it wasn't against the best talent in the world. It wasn't like LeBron James was out there guarding him or anything like that. But his first game as a professional, he made a big shot. He's a guy that obviously the Knicks coaching staff likes. They took him in the first round. I don't pay much attention to the pedigree because you never know. He's a completely different player than Tim Hardaway was, but he's going to be there to, I think, get mentored by a lot of the veterans on this team, and I think that's what you saw that a little bit last year. Iman Shumpert was fixing his shot and changing a lot of things, I'm sure, about the way he trained. And I think that's kind of what Tim Hardaway's role is. I think Tim Hardaway's role is going to go beyond this year. I think they're kind of looking beyond this year for him and looking for him to be a contributor for many years to come. And that means learning from Metta World Peace how do you guard the LeBron Jameses of the league, because this isn't college anymore. This is the pros. He's going to, I think he'll see some minutes. He'll definitely see minutes. I don't think he's going to be a huge impact role player in crunch time or anything like that, barring injury. But he's going to be there to basically be the understudy to every single other veteran on this team. And, if he works hard, I think that there's a lot of talent from him to learn from. He might not be the most naturally gifted player in the league, but he's got some of the best players that have played this generation on his team. And if he's willing to put in the work, I don't see any reason why he can't be a meaningful player. Probably not a superstar or an all-star or anything like that, but a meaningful player on this team or on a team somewhere for years to come.
Well, watching Tim Hardaway Jr., being a Michigan fan, he's definitely got the shot for the NBA.
Yeah.
One thing he does have is the shot. And the fact that he's going to learn things from Melo and learn defense from Metta World Peace, like you said, and even Shumpert's going to teach him a thing or two about defense.
Yeah.
I think that's a solid shooting guard, small forward right there for the future.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, this team, it's unlikely that a team like the Knicks, who are obviously have championship aspirations, are going to be relying on this guy for big time minutes. But I think he's going to be a good player for that role. Whether or not he makes a serious impact game to game, probably not. But maybe but I can see it in the future. He's definitely got some natural skills to do it.
All right, let's talk a little around the league now. Switch gears a little bit.
We didn't even talk about Melo yet.
Melo.
What's your expectations with Melo this year? Is he going to retain the scoring title this year, or you think Durant or LeBron's going to overtake him for that, especially with a contract year?
It's not going to be LeBron. If anyone is going to do it, it's going to be Durant. But Kirk Goldsberry had a shot chart for Carmelo Anthony, and the way the shot chart works, green is you're about league average, gray is below league average, and red is way above league average. And this guy was red basically all over the court except for corner threes and near the hoop. And that's why I said Chandler and Metta World Peace are there to open it up for the best one-way basketball player in the league. I really believe that Carmelo is the best pure scorer in the league. And he was really good last year, and I gave him a lot of grief. The defense leaves a little bit to be desired, whether that's an effort thing, whether that's a matchup thing. We could probably debate all day, but he's going to put up big-time offensive numbers, and they're going to have the defensive players around him to keep other teams from scoring a lot of points. And Melo could create his own shot, and I expect him to do the same this year. I don't know how much of a crazy competitor he is in terms of, the Kobe, Michael Jordan type of addiction to competition that he has. But I think he's a prideful NBA player, and he takes a lot of pride in his offense, and he's going to be just as good this year as he was last year. If not even better. I really believe that.
No, I agree with you, especially adding the factor of the contract year. It's gonna be. He's gonna have a ridiculous year, especially knowing this is his last real chance of making big money, stupid money. So I honestly think he might have a shot of repeating the scoring title. It's just hopefully all his other aspects of the game is better this year, because we know he's going to score the 25 to 35 points a night, and that's all we need. It's going to be interesting to see what J.R. Smiths of the world, Shumps, and Feltons, and all Bargnani. It's going to be interesting to see how our secondary scoring stays alive.
Right.
That's really what happened in the playoff series against the Pacers. Our secondary scoring just was nowhere to be found. Felton had a good series, but no one else really had that spectacular series other than Melo.
Right, and you don't even have to be a huge basketball fan to watch a Knicks game and realize the team is at its absolute best and basically unstoppable when J.R. Smith and Carmelo Anthony are both hitting.
Exactly.
So what a secondary scorer does for Carmelo Anthony is probably more than what a secondary scorer does for any other guy in the league, because Melo's going to get his. And if you got another guy also scoring, I mean, this team should put up 100 points every game. And so I'm confident in him. I'm a little bit, the JR thing is a little bit worrisome because he's kind of streaky, but there are good streaks and there are bad streaks. And I think when he's on his good streaks, if he remains committed, he will continue. This team will be as good as it was last year.
I agree. It really is up to the head of J.R. Smith. It's really scary to say that the Knicks season pretty much falls on J.R. Smith's head.
For sure.
More times than not. But like we were talking about before, what do you think? Any big surprises coming around the league this year in the overall NBA this year? So we should look out for?
Surprising teams?
Yeah.
I think a bad surprise I think is going to be the Denver Nuggets. Lost their best player, lost their coach of the year, and lost the GM of the year all this offseason. Danilo is out for probably until December at least. This is a team that won 55 games last year, and if they make the playoffs, it's not going to be as a 55-win team, that's for sure. I don't even know if they'll make it. So that's a bad surprise. I actually think Detroit can be pretty good. I think they added a lot of talent, and I think that I don't know. I guess they're a little bit slept on. They've got talent, and I'm not saying they're going to be a top 4 team in the East or anything like that, but they should definitely pretty easily be in the playoff conversation. And that's a team I don't think that is getting a lot of love. There hasn't been a lot of love thrown at Detroit in a while, so I think they're pretty good. They're going to be a pretty good team. I don't necessarily buy into the Wizards all that much. But yeah, those would be my 2 surprise teams, and the Bucks. I kind of like the Bucks. I love Larry Sanders, but yeah. So those would be my 2 surprise teams. The Nuggets in a bad way, the Pistons in a good way.
What is your Derrick Rose expectation?
I expect him to play like the MVP he was before he went down. I can imagine. Having never torn my ACL, and never going through that kind of rehab. I can imagine mentally getting back to where you were is difficult. But he took all year off last year to get his mind right, to get as healthy as possible, and it was just one of those freak accidents. I expect honestly the Bulls to be the number 2 team in the East and the biggest threat to Miami this year, because the Bulls, even without Derrick Rose, had a way of just getting to Miami somehow, and they they're a really good team. They're a really tough team. So I expect this team to be, if not in the Eastern Conference Finals, really really close to it.
All right. Can somebody beat out LeBron James for the league MVP?
No.
No.
I barring injury, which he never gets injured, so I don't know how he manages to do that. But honestly, I'd be floored if somebody else even was in the discussion, assuming that LeBron doesn't take significant time off with an injury. Rose
sits around for do nothing all year.
I mean, Rose kind of got it because people were kind of sick of LeBron and people were mad at LeBron. But LeBron probably deserved it the year after the decision anyway. But yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that anyone's going to come close to LeBron. I expect him to be easily the MVP next year.
When's he going to play in the NFL?
When not for a while. If he wins another 3 or 4, then maybe he pulls a little Michael Jordan and goes play wide receiver or tight end somewhere.
He's got to play wide receiver if it's in Cleveland. They have Jordan Cameron.
Yeah. No, they could play 2 tight ends. The Patriots did that, right?
No, he's going to be wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys.
But then again, he could just play the quarterback also. Add his name to the list of that jersey in Cleveland.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Former Oakland great Jason Campbell is starting there this weekend.
That's true.
Anyhow, back to basketball.
Yeah.
Can't stop. We just love our football.
I know. I figured he would like that. Let's see. What else we got? Who do you think is going to be the Rookie of the Year this year?
I think it's going to be Oladipo. I just think I know. Well, Anthony Bennett went number 1. I've heard he's having a little bit of trouble with his weight, which is never a good sign. I think Oladipo. The Magic are going to be bad. They're going to expect to be bad, and he's just going to get a ton of opportunities to just shoot the ball, and that's kind of all that matters for Rookie of the Year. You know, if you're the guy if you're the rookie who scores 20 points, even if it's on 40 shots, you know. You win Rookie of the Year. So I think it'll be Oladipo. I've heard of actually Cody Zeller, because Charlotte just has really nobody besides Al Jefferson to score, would be my other selection. But I'll go with Oladipo. I want to be on the record with Oladipo.
Okay.
All right, you're on the record. The
Cool.
S&D podcast record.
And do the Heat 3-peat?
You know, three-peating it's such a hard thing to do. And this, if any team can, I mean, obviously, if any team can do it, it'd be them. But I think that I assume we're going to get the predictions, so I don't want to spoil it. I think that they will have a chance to three-peat, and I think that they will do it, presuming that there's no major injuries. You know, and that's not to say that they were without, Wade had his time last year, and I think Bosch also had his time last year where they were not 100%, but and they still won the NBA championship. And you could say maybe it's a championship they shouldn't have won. That maybe the Spurs should have closed that one out, but they did it. I expect them to do it again.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Spurs definitely had their chance. Do you think the Spurs are going to take a step back this year, or are they going to just be their quiet selves and find a way to sneak in?
A step back just because of age. But Kawhi Leonard is really a guy that's getting a lot of buzz, as a guy that's going to step up and kind of take the next step. We'll see if he can. I don't think that they necessarily take any steps back. Tim Duncan is going to be impossible to replace once he retires, and it's going to be coming soon. I mean, the guy's in his mid to late 30s. So I don't think that they will. They'll still make the playoffs, and they'll still be a threat. And they'll still be a team that people think is boring and they don't want to talk about because they're always in discussion, right? So So I think that they'll take a step back. I think they'll be just as good as they were last year. It's hard to say. That's hard to say, I know, because they were 20 seconds away from winning the NBA championship last year. So to be just as good would be quite a feat. But I think they'll definitely be in the hunt. That's for sure.
All right, NBA Finals. Who plays who?
I'm gonna go. I already said that I'm gonna pick Miami, and I'm gonna go with the newly healthy Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it's going to be a rematch of 2 years ago. I think that this team, the Thunder, is going to be grown up. I don't think they're going to beat the Heat, but they're going to give them a little bit more of a run than they did 2 years ago, or I guess you could say 2 years ago. Once Westbrook gets back, so I'm gonna go with the Thunder. They're a year older, they're a year more mature, and they're on the right side of 30. All their key guys, and I think they're gonna make a move. I don't know for who or who they're gonna trade to do it, but I think that Sam Presti, you can't count him out of having a little trick up his sleeve to get somebody else that can play meaningful minutes for them. And I think that they'll do something at the trade deadline that will, I don't know if it'll be surprising necessarily, but will make them a real scary team to play.
All right, and what do you think, before we wrap it up, what do you think of the Houston Rockets this year? They're definitely going to be able to contend for the Western Conference title, especially with Dwight Howard and Harden and Jeremy Lin being the focal point on that team. What do you think with them this year?
I obviously, you have to like what they did. They got, when he's healthy, the best center in the league. The problem is when he's healthy, and a lot of these centers, with the back issues, it doesn't always come back. He was beat up last year. He was not the same Dwight Howard. I think that much is obvious, and whether it's because he didn't want to be in LA, or he was hurt, or he didn't want to play for D'Antoni, or he didn't want to play with Kobe. It's maybe one or some combination of all of those things. If he's healthy, Houston's going to have a real chance to contend, because Dwight Howard should be responsible for a team making the playoffs and having home court advantage basically by himself. He carried an Orlando team to the finals by himself. I don't doubt he can do it again. I really am worried about the health, and I think I'm probably more worried than the average fan about it.
No, I'm with you on that. It's really such a shame of what half the player he's become over the last couple of seasons, especially knowing how awesome he was, and arguably one of the top 5 best players in the league as an overall player. So it's going to be interesting to see in a whole new environment, an environment where he wanted to go to. Last year was just a circus on him being a Laker last year, and just the Laker fan base is a lot tougher than any other. One of the definitely top 3 fan bases where you need to perform and just be a hero, quote unquote, be an awesome hero for them to actually like you.
Right, and he'll be. I mean, I think he wants to be there. He wants to be in Houston. I think he's going to like playing there. I think he's going to be motivated. My only issue is his back, and if his back is healthy, he's going to make me sound really stupid. But I'm counting on it kind of being an issue for him, and maybe it won't be, but I'll believe it when I see it. Is my attitude with that.
Any update on schmucksports.com you want to give to the...
I can't talk much about it now, just because there's more than a few things going on in the works. What I'll tell you is we're going to have a lot more content coming soon, and I personally am going to be out there a little bit more coming up probably within the next week and a half. So we're going to have a lot more content that I'm going to be able to post up there. I had it somewhere else. I no longer will have it there for reasons that'll be clearer when I can talk about it. But I will have more content up of more weekly fantasy stuff that I can put up there, and it's exciting. We're gonna have some good stuff coming up soon. So just stay tuned. You can check my Twitter at TheRealKBlack25, and you'll find all the updates there. Anything that we put up, I'm gonna post out. So just follow me there, and you guys will be the first to know if you follow me.
Awesome.
We can't wait to hear what actually the good news is about. So stay tight with that. Once again, thanks, Keith, for coming on. Continue to look at his work on schmucksports.com, especially his Twitter. It's a good follow, so definitely give him a follow.
Also, if you're in fantasy football, every Sunday he does questions on Twitter. He will answer all questions on Twitter.
I try to answer all the ones that I get. So,
and also, we're not liable if he's wrong.
Yep, and I'm not liable either. It's your team.
So, just want to state that for legal reasons.
Alrighty.
Thanks again, Keith.
Thanks, guys.
S&D Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Basketball Association or any of its affiliates.
All right, welcome back to the S&D Podcast NBA special. You just listened to Intermezzo by Rob Barden. Very good song, as we mentioned throughout the whole show. That was a very good last two segments. A lot of Knicks tape action, a lot of Net Brooklyn action. I don't know. Thank you once again. Thank you to Alex and Keith for coming on before we get into our takes. What do you think? What do you think the Nets are going to be like this year?
Like we were talking about, it all depends on the health of their older men.
Yeah, it really depends on that.
And can Jason Kidd actually become a coach?
Yeah, no, I think he won't have a problem with that because he has Lawrence Frank next to him, pretty much being the head coach, and he's more of a figurative head coach kind of thing. He'll just learn how to gel, especially with how old this team is and how veteran this team is this year. This year is a very all or nothing kind of year for the Nets because after this year, you don't really know what's going to happen with Paul Pierce and KG. Maybe one of them might retire, especially with injuries. You never know. It really is up to D. Will being able to contribute, distribute the ball, take care of business with that. And if Brook Lopez is able to stay healthy, they have all the marks to be a elite team in the Eastern Conference, and maybe more if they catch the Heat on the right night. Unfortunately, there's no no team in the NBA. Maybe if Derrick Rose stays healthy, maybe the Bulls can beat the Heat. But as of right now, the Knicks and Nets are going to fight for the 2 or 3 seed, depending on how everything works out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Unless Indy just decides to play like they did last year.
Well, yeah,
they're the only real other threat, I think, in the Eastern Conference. But then again, I actually think the Bulls are going to be a top 2 team this year.
Yeah, I think so too.
So that right away moves the Knicks and Nets down a spot, down a spot. You got to think that one will win the division and the other will be the other
5th seed, the 5th or the 6th seed.
They could be the 4. Remember?
No, that's what I'm saying. They'll either be the 4 or the... Oh, okay, because I said they'll be the 4, 5, or 6, depending on how the chips pull out.
You got to think they're going to finish top 6, both teams.
And as for the Knicks, it's just another year. Maybe this year's a little bit different year opposed to last year. Hopefully their window didn't close on them this year. Hopefully they have Ron Artest, like I mentioned before. I refuse to call him Metta World Peace.
Did you see what happened with him in Hansborough the other day?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. It's really they have a little bit more toughness in this year's team. They also have Bunyarny, like we mentioned earlier in this show, that could add another dimension to the Knicks offense if Stoudemire, which we hope he comes back and plays half of his old self, especially coming off the bench. But honestly, after the last couple of years, you can't really expect that.
The big question is going to be Chandler's health this year.
I think this year is going to be a little bit different because he didn't play the Olympics.
Right, but still, it's a neck injury.
Yeah, he did take an absolute beating, and he did play in the Olympics. So this year is going to be different. It really comes down to the head of J.R. Smith.
Yeah.
That's what it really...
Which J.R. Smith will show up every night.
Are we gonna
after
get
the 5-game suspension.
Are we gonna get the J.R. Smith for the first 3 games of the Boston series, or are we gonna get the guy that got suspended for Game 4 and from Game 5 on to the end of the Pacer series? He is a reigning 6-man, so you never know which JR he can get. I hopefully he starts off the bench again, and I think Shumpert definitely earns the starting point guard position.
I'm done with Shumpert. He cut his hair. I want him off the team.
Yeah, but honestly, I think we're gonna have a very good year out of Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yes, I watched him a lot of Michigan.
Well, yeah.
So you know that, and the kid can shoot. He can shoot.
And
if he develops the rest of his game,
like I mentioned, I mentioned in the segment with Keith, he wants to be with Melo.
Yeah.
All camp long, he's been Melo's little puppy.
Yeah.
And that's great to see. And
he's learning the post game from Melo because that was what he lacked in college. Was a post game.
Yeah. That's the scoring obviously is not going to be the issue. It's really when it comes down to it, defense. We have
and they make that big stop towards the end.
Which they can. With Shumpert being back for the full season, definitely can. Chandler's always that guy. He just ran out of gas last year. Unfortunately, Biagnani is not going to really be that much of a defensive threat, but 2 7-footers on the court at the same time, I'll take that.
No, I mean we tried that with Amari, but we all know how.
Well, Amari's a little bit under 6 foot, so, but definitely having 2 7-footers at the same time and the toughness of Ron Artest. We're going to be a tougher team.
You know what's really interesting about this team that I didn't mention with Keith, though? Or I may have early in the segment with him. I don't recall. But think about this. You can have a big lineup of Chandler, Amari,
Artest,
Shumpert, and Melo. And have Shumpert run the ball.
That'd be
or even Melo run the ball. Yeah,
that's a very intimidating lineup, and honestly, that's the one thing we lost.
Or not just Amari. What's his name?
Biagnani.
Yeah,
that's the one thing we lost in the series against the Pacers. They outmanned us. They took our will. But like I posted on Instagram a few weeks ago, the picture of that whole playoff series was when Hibbert blocked Melo in Game 6.
Yeah.
That was the most deflating block of the whole season. Obviously, the Knicks lost in 5 minutes later.
That was the moment that killed the whole season.
Yeah.
Because they were making a comeback in that game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was completely deflating, and that was the end of making any shot of Game 7. So maybe the one thing I'm scared about is maybe we did our one weakness a little bit too much. But I liked how we got tougher this offseason, and they seem to be hungrier.
I can see that as well. BKNFC.com. Check them out. BrooklynNetsFanClub.com. Thank you again to Alex. We will definitely have him on during the season.
Yes, we'll definitely have him on, especially hopefully for more Knick-Net battles like we had tonight.
Correct. Especially around the times when they're playing each other.
Yeah.
Get a little insight on those. Thank you to Keith again. SchmuckSports.com.
Thank you, Keith.
Co-founder. SchmuckSports.com. So don't forget to check that out. Rob Barden, great song tonight. Thank you for letting us borrow it. Check him out on Facebook.
No.
Let's go Knicks.
So let's go Knicks. Knicks tape. Woo woo. And Brooklyn's in the house as always.
Let's meet in the Eastern Conference Finals.
That would be epic. LeBron's probably has 2 broken legs for that to happen. But hey, anything could happen. Let's enjoy the basketball season. Enjoy, guys.